My name is Michaela. I've been with Wassart for about 11 years now. I'm the Public Information Officer, and I'm also on the technical rescue team. So I'm usually one of the people that is out on the rescue, and I'm also on the board and stuff, lots of stuff. If I can't answer your question, then I will definitely know the person who can, unless it is like a philosophical question, in which case I think we're all in trouble. One thing I was really excited about for seeing everybody here who mentioned that they were already volunteers is I love working with the people in Wassart and volunteers in general, and like ESAR, which is Explorer Search and Rescue in King County, that's the regular search and rescue, and just any volunteers that I've met in organizations have been really great because it's always the best of people. I'm very excited to have you all here. Let's talk about the agenda. We've done some introductions, so that is great to already have something done on this. I will talk about Wassart, and then we'll talk about rescue stories, so that way you get a little bit of an idea of what stuff we've done, plus hopefully it will be entertaining as well as educational. And then we'll have questions from you if you would like to ask them out loud. Questions in the chat are always okay. Wassart, we are here to help animals and their owners in emergency. And so you'll notice that there are both animals and humans that are mentioned within this. A lot of things that end up happening in when people and their animals get in trouble is an owner will try to assist their animal and end up in a worse situation. So we are here to save human lives as much as we are to save animals. Emergencies covering both like very short term, like my dog has fallen over a cliff, and long term, such as we have to leave our house for a while and we don't know what to do with our dog. So we need help. So there's a wide variety of emergencies that we cover. But the thing is that all of these emergencies are disasters, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale. So if it's just like a family, that's still a disaster for them, because whatever else is happening doesn't usually matter as much for the family, because they're most concerned with what is happening to them and their pets. So our history, really quick, we were founded in 2007, and we were founded because of Hurricane Katrina. And what happened is the two founders ended up, they were in horseback search and rescue together, and they saw what happened during Hurricane Katrina, which was a third of the people would not leave their homes, and a third of those people would not leave because of their animals. So they decided that they would rather that not happen in Washington State. So they wanted to set up their own organization to do that. And it's come a long way since then. It was originally founded to do disaster sheltering, and has mostly changed into, we do some disaster sheltering, but almost all of what we do is technical rescue and like stuff that is can immediately be taken care of, which is great. And it gives us practice for the bigger ones as well. Our first deployment was in December of 2007. We had like 3 pieces of equipment, and I think maybe 2 of those were borrowed. So we started out with like a retired fire hose, and that is what we used on that first rescue. Volunteer training started after that, 2008. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. So all of what we do is run by volunteers and funded by donations. How do we make a difference? So the stuff that we end up doing is we do a lot of preparedness, education, and awareness. So like we will come and talk to, we'll talk to schools or Rotary clubs, or go wherever people might be having like an interest in animals, and they would like to talk about like how to prepare, how to keep their animals safe. So when we've done emergency like preparedness fairs and stuff, you'll get like maybe 10% of people will have their bags and stuff ready to go in case there's a mass like earthquake or something. And then 1% of those will have stuff ready to go for their animals. So what we'll try and do is give them like a little checklist of like, well, remember your animal, you're going to want to take with you too. And here are some ways to get prepared for that. Like, I know there are a lot of people on the call that are interested in cats. Cats do not like to just go into a carrier for no reason at all. So we give them some tips on how to set their cat up for success in that way. Community animal emergency planning. We work closely with counties to assist in their plans for when there is an issue. We help King County quite a bit since we're technically within King County for our foundation or our founding. And a lot of our stuff, we are directly associated with RASC, which is man, I can't remember. I'm sorry. I know there's someone on the call from RASC. It is basically King County's animal control organization.
Regional Animal Services of King County.
Thank you so much, Leo. I'm not sure what I would do without you some days.
You got there before me.
Awesome, thank you. It's great that I mean, it's a team effort sometimes to get information across. So thank you. So the biggest thing we do, of course, is the technical rescue, and that is the stuff where you save or to deploy for like a dog over a cliff or a horse that's in a well or something. So that it will usually set up like rope systems, and we have a bunch of equipment to help with that. We're pretty specialized with that stuff. But the principles are all still based on the same physics and the same equipment, with some exceptions and techniques that you would use for regular search and rescue. So some of it is similar to rappelling and like recreational rock climbing and stuff, but some of it's a little bit different because we usually have like backups on safety backups because we're very focused on safety, and we want to make sure that our volunteers are safe. And so we've got some processes in place to make sure that everybody stays safe. We do some shelter setup and operations. This year was a year in which we had 2 cooling shelters that we were able to set up for King County. And that was because we had like some really hot days, like in some parts of Washington. It was, especially Western Washington here, it was 108, 115, I think, in a couple of places. And we're not necessarily prepared for that because like we don't have AC in our house, like a lot of people who like are used to those temperatures might. So people who had to go to work, they didn't necessarily want to leave their pets in that situation. So we were very fortunate to be able to work with King County Search and Rescue and set up some shelters. First with them and some air-conditioned tents that they have, and then with Seattle Humane Society, and they allowed us to use some of their facilities to set up the second one. So that's a little bit of what we do. We'll get into that a little bit more later. And then volunteer training. We don't necessarily expect you to know anything when you come to us. Like, ideally, we would love it if you love animals and know a little bit of something about animals, but not everybody does. Some people are here just to learn how to lift 2,000 pounds with pulleys and ropes. But we are here to train you for that. A lot of what we do is we work within the community to be a resource for the community, and that means we will get called out by various organizations and people. So we are not technically a search and rescue. We are filed under emergency management, and the difference for that, practically speaking, is that search and rescue has to be called out by the sheriff, and then there needs to be a sheriff usually on site, and then that whole thing is run by the sheriff. We can be called out by the sheriff, we can be called out by emergency management, by fire, any other law enforcement, animal control can call us out, search and rescue can call us out, a breed organization, or even private individuals can call us out as well. So we're very lucky with that, and we will let the law enforcement of whichever county know that we are coming to their county to, help a horse or something. But we have a lot more flexibility. Oh, what do volunteers do? So much. There is the stuff that you see on Facebook where we're like rappelling down a cliff or, lifting a horse or something. But a lot of the other work is done like by committees. So there will be like a fundraising committee or the training committee, which is one of the biggest and most important ones because like we are very concerned about making sure that everybody has the training that they need to be successful out in the field and to not get harmed and to do everything safely. So that is a lot of work behind the scenes. So if you are not the sort to want to put on a harness and go over a cliff, there are many other people who are excited to do that. And if you want to do something else, like help us with like, I don't know, paperwork and databases, if that's your jam, we are super excited to have you. Yeah, so talked a little bit about committees. Some of the other committees that we have besides training is like outreach, where you go to like an event like a Pet Palooza or something where they've got like lots of animals or some other thing that is related to what we do, and basically have a booth and talk to people as they go by about their animals and whatever concerns they may have. We've got fundraising, technical rescue, merchandise, which is, as you probably know, the selling of like t-shirts and stuff, public relations, which is what I do a lot of, and Leo helps me out on that. Communications and technology, that is mostly what Leo does, but that's like radio stuff and just making sure that stuff works when you get into the field, because it's super important that we are able to stay in touch with people. Their supply, which is basically making sure that everything is up to date in the trailers and in the right spots and clean. So that way, when we are ready to go, we're totally ready to go. We've got water rescue, which is a brand new committee and team that Rory can certainly discuss when we get to that point. And that is where like water rescue is one of the more dangerous aspects of search and rescue work. So we need to make sure that people have the correct training to be safe in water, because it's I think we all assume water is safer than it is because we just like take a shower in it or whatever, but it can be certainly very dangerous. We've got a sheltering advisory committee that makes sure that our procedures and our forms and stuff are what they could be, and as good as they could be. And then we've got a membership committee that basically makes sure that everybody's got their credentials in order and they've got their first aid training done and all that stuff. So that's pretty much what we do. For our deployments, we get requests from government agencies, which I've covered, and then non-government agencies like the ASPCA. Sometimes we will help them out when they've got like some situation where they've got like 100 dogs that were rescued from a dog fighting ring, and they need to care for them while they figure out what needs to happen to them. So we will send volunteers, and the ASPCA will pay for that, and then they spend a week on the ground taking care of dogs and learning some great stuff from the ASPCA. And then animal owners we discussed as people who request stuff from us. We operate using the ICS Guidelines, which is the Incident Command System. That is a scalable framework of like command and team structure that is used by FEMA and the police department and fire departments. So that way, when you show up and there are other teams that you need to integrate with, you can just seamlessly do that, and everybody kind of knows what their place is. And we're super glad to be able to do that with some of our partners. We don't do self-deployment. So like if we saw something going on, like what happens sometimes is someone will post something on Facebook like, oh, this goat is stuck on the side of a hill and we need to help it, or somebody please help. We wouldn't be able to just go out and take care of that. We need to be called out by law enforcement or animal control or an owner or something. So that way we are being requested to do something rather than us deciding that we are going to show up and do something. All of our members are state emergency workers, and we're trained in credentials for the specialty that we have, which is basically the animal rescue stuff. But it also means that we can help with other things such as we had some members that were helping with the mass COVID vaccination stuff. Because you have that training, then you are able to come and volunteer for other things as well. We had some members helping during OSO. It was not animal related during the OSO landslide situation, but we were, for example, helping clean stuff that belonged to people so we could give it back to their families so they could find some closure. Emergency animal sheltering. This is a photo from the first cooling shelter. A lot of our people volunteer for this. If you have volunteered with assisting with animal like humane societies or anything like that, or times in which animals are in kennels or restrained in some way, you know it can be very stressful for the animal and the people involved. It can be really loud, but hopefully at the end of the day, we are doing what we can to keep them safe and to make sure that they can get home safely. Okay, technically animal rescue. So because this is a big part of what we do, and I've talked a little bit about what this is, I'm going to talk about some situations in which we might be called back or called out. And then I've got a little story to tell you about a horse that kind of ended up in a ravine that we were able to help out. And just so you kind of get an idea of some of what we do. So as I mentioned, we do a lot of dogs over cliffs. It's probably 45% of what we do is dog related. And most of that is either a dog over a cliff or a dog that's up a trail that's like burned its paws on hot rocks or cut its paws on sharp rocks. And for whatever reason, just can't get back down. If at least one of you is with ISAR and has been out with us during a transport of moving an animal out from a trail. And that is something that will happen. We have a litter that is like we usually use, that is usually used for humans, but we will put a dog in it, usually some giant dog like a Newfoundland or something, and then wheel it out and help put it in the owner's car. So that way the owner can take it to the emergency vet. I mean, there's really no other option for owners, right? Like you can't just like leave your dog there or who are you going to call? Because there's not a lot of people that have that expertise. So we show up and help do that safely. And usually with that, we have a lot of assistance from the local search and rescues, which is great because they're really good at understanding how to move subjects out of wilderness situations. All right, this one right here that you see the picture of, this is a horse on a glide. This is probably our most typical horse type situation that we will go and get called out for. Occasionally, you will have a horse that can't stand up, and that's usually pretty bad news for the horse. Horses, their circulatory system works most efficiently when they are standing because of the way that their blood pressure works and stuff. When they are laying down for long periods, it can lead to blood clots and all kinds of unpleasant things for the horse. So usually we try and get them on their feet as quickly as possible. So that way a vet can examine them and the horse can kind of like, sometimes they just need help getting back up. So the horse can get back on their feet and hopefully recover their strength a little bit. The reason why you might want to get called out for this is like, sometimes horses will have like arthritis on like one of their hips, and then that's the hip they lay on and they can't quite get up in that instance. So we will lift them with this tripod that we have that is in the background. And that I would say about 60% of our calls end up being horses, with the 5 remaining calls being other things like pigs or occasionally cats, that we've had some poultry as well. And I think we had a goat rescue a few months ago. That was our first one of those. All right, so story time. So there was this horse somebody had, and she was in this paddock and she just disappeared. And she was gone for a couple of days, and they sent out a bunch of people looking for her and eventually found her. And she had just kind of gone like over this cliff and was down about 70 feet. And as you can kind of see here that it's fairly steep. There's no way that she could really get up on her own. That ledge that she is on, that is where the hay is, that is the extent of that ledge. And then there's a drop off right after that, and it goes down for a ways farther. So we sent some people down and hooked up. We made this harness out of an old fire hose, and then we ended up like helping her back up the hill. And this is what it looked like. So we've got some ropes on the harness to assist her up. She was sedated in parts, or she was somewhat sedated for this, so that way she was calmer, but still could move and assist us in getting her up. On top of this hill, we had about 60 firefighters that were also helping pull her up. So that was really helpful, because when you're going uphill and you weigh like, in this case, this horse was probably about 900 pounds, but usually our subjects are about 1,200 or so. It's a lot of energy to try and get up. And you can see where she took a couple of breaks to just kind of rest up. And we finally got her up to the top, and she met back with her owner, and is having a great life at the farm that has her, and hangs out with a bunch of other fjords, which is the kind of horse that she is. All right, get your questions ready, because we're getting to the final stretch of our presentation. So volunteer training, we talked about, we don't expect you to have skills. Just come as you are. We will train you on the stuff that you need to know. Just come with an open heart and a good attitude, and be willing to learn stuff. And that's really all we ask. We have transitioned a lot of our courses to be online to assist with the COVID issues. And then the stuff that needs to be done in person, like the hands-on with the horse handling and stuff, it's usually outdoors or in a barn or something, with plenty of ventilation. So the training committee has like done a lot of work to make sure that that is as safe as possible. We have some trainings coming up. Next weekend is our basin operations training. That is the main training you need to be able to deploy. There's some other qualifications that you need to get finished, like you need to make sure that you are qualified in first aid and CPR. There are some FEMA courses you need to take. Those are free and on your line and at your own pace. And there's a small list of those to do. And then otherwise, we've got some optional trainings like transport. If you've ever wanted to learn how to back up a trailer, which I have learned in spots and still could be better at. Thank you, Rory, for having helped me out with that before. Then we've got a class to assist you with that. There's an emergency animal sheltering training that we host, and then there's an annual exercise in October, which even if you're not a Wassart member, you are welcome to come out. It's free. You can just like practice what it would be like to bring your animal to a shelter, see what it's like to have those animals managed as they get checked in and out. And really, it's just a chance for us to practice what is sometimes a not very frequent situation for us. We have technical rescue trainings monthly, and there's water rescue trainings monthly as well. Those are free. And if you are interested, even if you haven't, at least the technical rescue, Roy can talk about the water rescue in a second. Technical rescue, if you're signed up, you can just join in whenever. If you are not signed up and you just kind of want to see what it's like, we can definitely have you out as a guest, and you can observe. And that is about it. Rory, did you want to talk about the water rescue training?
Yeah, briefly. I suppose the big news for the water rescue team is we're getting a new rescue raft. Should be delivered to me by the end of the month, hopefully, if not early next month. And will be the first time we'll be using it. And hopefully we're going to do a cross training with the technical team as well. As Michaela mentioned earlier, we do a hands-on training on a monthly basis. It's usually kind of alternates between a Saturday and Sunday. It's obviously we're all volunteers, so it's during the weekends. We try and make the training days kind of opposites to the technical rescue team and account for other organizations as well. Their training calendars, we kind of keep an eye on that because otherwise people get double booked. if you're interested in doing it, jump online, shoot us an email, we can connect you with that. And I suppose with anything, any of the teams you're interested in getting involved with, don't go out and buy any gear yet. If you have some gear, helmet, if you rock climb or whatever, bring that stuff with you, but don't go out specifically to purchase anything until you've gone through a couple of trainings and you know it's a good fit for you and it's something that you're interested in. And in that way, we can advise you also on the type of gear that you may need. Other than that, we haven't done training for the last 2 months on water rescue, purely because it's been so dry that the river levels are very low. But that's now going to change because we actually had a sprinkle of water this morning. So we're going to get back into training pretty much hardcore now from here on out. And as I say, as Michaela has mentioned, the biggest part about this is come with a good attitude, and we'll find a spot for you. You know, not everybody's going to want to jump into a whitewater river. There's positions on the bank, there's positions in the command post that we need. There's always something for people to do. So if you're interested, come join us and we'll have a little fun. And that's all I got.
Cool. Thank you, Rory. I was looking at a couple of the questions in the chat. I did wanted to, because I didn't mention it specifically. One of the questions was about wildlife. We deal with companion animals and livestock, so dogs and cats and things you might have in your home that are not exotics, and livestock like horses and cows and alpacas and llamas. If there is something else, such as like a boa constrictor or something, we can probably point you to the right direction of who might be able to help with that. Okay, next steps. Some of this is from when this is an in-person thing, like having your picture taken. We will figure something out for that. If you're interested, you can fill out a membership application. There is the training next weekend that we will put a link in. Leo's already put a training event and events link in the chat if you would like that. Otherwise, that is most of the information I have for you. So if any of you have questions that you have not gotten answered in chat, I am happy to answer them.
Michaela, I'll jump on there for a second if you don't mind. A couple of people had also, as Michaela referenced, had asked about wildlife. Yes, we regularly get calls about wildlife. They actually, there's state laws that address wildlife. So typically we refer the person to Fish and Wildlife and they will deal with it. Personally, I've got calls about an eagle stuck on a sign on I-90. Well, they're sitting there probably looking for fish. Well, he's been there for a couple of hours. Well, he's taking a rest. And I get a call a couple of hours there to say, oh yeah, he's flown away. You know, but we do get all kinds of calls all the time. We do have a fairly comprehensive database at this stage that our call coordinators used to refer. If it's not something that we can handle directly, I'd say probably at this stage, 99% of the time, we're able to direct the people to another organization who has the either legal authority and or the special skill set to deal with the particular situation. And then there was another question, do we go outside of King County? And in the chat, it was answered, and Michaela answered a little bit of it. Yeah, we cover pretty much all of Washington State and beyond if needed. We have not been requested to go out of the state yet. We have done wildfires in Eastern Washington a few times. And when I say done wildfires, we set up large animal rescue shelters and companion animal shelters to assist counties over there at their request. So we do travel periodically.
I also dropped the application link into the chat as well. So that is normally one of the things that we have in person on paper kind of a thing, but we've got the link so you can directly fill out your application online.
Yes.
I was wondering, once you're trained in, what's like the time commitment or the expectations to be available to respond, that sort of thing, just kind of as an ongoing basis?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and definitely something that everybody has to answer for themselves, what they are available for. it's basically, what are you willing to do? Like, we don't expect you to like put your job in danger or anything. It's, if you have time to answer a call when a call comes out, then you answer the call. I mean, we totally love it when there's more people, because sometimes we don't quite have enough people to go on calls, but it's basically what you are willing to put into it.
And so what is the, I guess, what's the general process if there's a situation that needs to be responded to? How is everyone contacted and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the process basically works like this. We've got a 24-hour call. Someone will call and say, like, my dog fell off a cliff, please come help. And then there are people who are called the duty officers, and they will start that process. And then they will put out a call to volunteers who are qualified. And that's like making sure that all of your certifications are up to date and stuff. And that's what the membership team does, is make sure that everybody who is qualified will get that call. And so you will get a recorded call that comes from a service. And usually we advise people to let it go to your messages, so you can listen to it a couple times if you need to, if you didn't hear everything, like everything that you needed to hear from it, like who's in charge of this and who do I contact? And then if you are available, then you contact the person who's going to be running the situation from as the call coordinator. And they're the people who make sure, like, the sheriff knows we're coming, and gathers like who is available, like of volunteers and stuff. Like Rory and Leo may be available, but like I've got meetings all day or something. So so like, say those two say that they're available, and then they will tell the person who is running it. And then that person will say, okay, why don't you meet the rest of the team at this place, and then go to the location and then take care of the situation. From there, the situation is hopefully resolved. And then everybody comes out. There's a little debrief in which we talk about, like, what happened and what could we have done better, what worked this time or something. And then everybody goes home.
I think one of the things that's important to stress is that we definitely realize that this is an all volunteer organization. We're asking you to take time out of your personal or sometimes workspace. And it's okay, honestly, if you can't call out. In fact, that's probably one of the questions we have with existing members a lot, is they feel guilty. I know I occasionally will feel guilty for not being able to respond. That's okay. We take the people that have the opportunity to respond and gratefully accept their help, but there's no negative consequence, if you will, if you can't deploy.
You know, we all have jobs that we need to keep a roof over our head and pay bills, etc. So it may be some companies support volunteers and will actually match their pay and things like that. Most companies don't. You know, you might get a call out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but you're not finishing until 5 or 6 o'clock. But you could also call in and say, hey, I can't finish work until 6 p.m., but I can deploy after that. On occasions, we do get complicated deployments where they go late into the evening or early morning, and you may be able to volunteer for a 6-hour window from 6 p.m. to midnight, etc. And every little bit helps. So again, it's not a you get a call, you have to go. That's absolutely the opposite. It's yourself first, then your family, and then Wassart. And the example that I would give, say if we have a natural disaster and we get spun up to do sheltering or to assist, you have to take care of yourself first. You have to take care of your family after that. And then when they're all settled and life is good there, only at that time should you really be volunteering to come out and help the community as a whole.
This is Elizabeth.
Hi.
I'm very interested in what you all are doing. This is very eye-opening to me that your organization exists. I have heard of it in passing over the past few years, but I hadn't seen the opportunity to take any of the online training, and this orientation came up, and I'm just thrilled to have stumbled across you.
We're thrilled you did too.
talk about a little bit more about how you can engage activities outside rescues, like educational events, online stuff, merchandise. Yes, I think this also, yeah, this there may be other questions about if you don't want to go march up a trail, because for some people that is not a fun thing to do on a Saturday. There are definitely a lot of the stuff that gets done is done by committees and done in non-physical ways, such as like we need people to help enter membership information into a database, or we need people to help us plan fundraising events, or to help the training committee get ready for what they're doing. And sometimes that means like reviewing training curriculum or whatever. So I think if there are that you would like to do that are definitely not physical, we can certainly find something for you to do.
Once you get associated with the organization, it's very easy to point you with the right people for the specific interest you have. Be it everything from, as Michaela was laughing about, fundraising, because she and I are spearheading that right now, to website development or data entry or even cleaning gear after a deployment. I mean, there's many, many, many opportunities that don't involve jumping off a cliff.
I would also say that there's probably more done in the background to keep the organization ready to deploy than actual deployments. Just to be honest about it, I'll give you an example. Say if the technical road team have to go out on a deployment, usually there's an entire day after that, within a couple of days of the deployment ending, of cleaning and organizing the equipment. There's a massive amount of equipment that we use, and that takes a couple of days of cleaning it, sorting through it, getting it dried and repacking it, getting it ready for the next deployment. And same thing with water rescue. Everything that we use has got to be dried, packed, and stored. So if you can't go on the deployment, there's more than ample opportunities after a deployment to help out. There's ample opportunities to be on a committee for planning for training events and fundraising events and different things like that. I would honestly say there's more in the background to keeping the organization going than in the forefront.
Training is another good example of sometimes your skills are in fact training, or sometimes the skills you bring to the table are things we need to be trained. One of the very first trainings I attended, they threw me a radio and said, "Here, teach this," because that was the skill set that I brought to the table. So like I said, lots of opportunities.
Roy, this is Kat Linton. On the water rescue team, do you primarily focus on rivers versus lakes or saltwater?
Hi, Kat. We typically focus on, at the moment, we focus on rivers because that's typically where our deployment is. It's rare that we get one on a lake. We do not go to saltwater. There's a lot of other, typically saltwater is covered by Coast Guard, more often than not all the time. And there are a few other organizations out there. For instance, saltwater, you're going to get a couple of organizations that deal specifically with wildlife associated to saltwater. So seals and different things like that periodically get hit by a boat or whatever, and they specialize in that. That's not what we do. How would I put it? The usual thing what we end up doing on water is, say, take Twin Falls out near Snoqualmie area on I-90. Usually once, twice a year, dog is playing around, slips on the rocks, gets into the falls, gets washed down the river, and ends up on a big boulder in the middle of the river. And we'll go out and get that dog off the rock. Or dog again gets washed down the river and ends up on a bank somewhere, but it could be cliffed out. And the only way they may not be able to access it from the top. It may be safer and more efficient to access it from the river. So does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, guys. This is Kimberly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm the training director for Wassart, and I've been a member since August 2018. And to kind of let you know, we do have the requirement that if you want to deploy with Wassart, you need to be certified in base and operation support. But that's only run 2, sometimes 3 times a year. Like Michaela noted earlier, the next base and operations support training is in Buckley on Saturday, September 18th. And if you can't make that, our next base and operations training isn't until March of 2022. And if you're just like, well, I don't want to wait that long, we've created a designation called trainee. And for those of you who, for whatever reason, can't make a current base and operations support training, you can get all of your online credentialing finalized, get your FEMAs, your tetanus shot, your CPR, your bloodborne pathogen, your training online quiz passed, get all that done, and then you will be eligible to deploy with a designation as trainee. And so if you have a designation of trainee, you won't be able to make decisions or be in a scenario where you would be in a very, a responsible position, like being an attendant for someone going over a cliff, or hauling the lead line on a horse, or being the horse handler. But there are a lot of other jobs that you can do. You get assigned a mentor, and that mentor will tell you, do this, do that, go here, go there. And the best way to learn is to deploy. We do our best at base and operations and technical rescue training, but really you learn the best by actually going to a deployment and helping out. And there's a lot of stuff that are not technical that you can do that will help. Base and operations is a high level, very quick review of all of our aspects. Like Rory gets about 45 minutes to talk everything he can about water rescue. And that's really not enough to truly learn what he and his team are doing. So go to the water rescue trainings, go on deployments, learn. Even if you don't want to go over the cliff, I personally do not go over a cliff. I do not go hiking up Mount Si to go get a dog. But what I do is run base. And that means I get to learn the trailers and the box van and the equipment. I'm very close to supply. I help a lot in that arena. So like people like Michaela and Rory can go out and hike the hills and go over the cliffs and do those really extreme things that I can't do, but they can trust that everything at base is being taken care of. In a horse deployment, basically everybody kind of is near the truck, near the trailer. You don't have to be in a situation where you're, alone or hanging out waiting. And you can haul lines, you can pull rope, you can do all kinds of things. So I would encourage anybody who's interested who can't make base and operations next week to become a trainee and come out and do trainings and deploy. We really love the help. It would be greatly appreciated for any new person to join us.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Well, we are right at time. If you feel like you would like to disappear, totally okay. I think I'm certainly willing to stay on if there are any other questions. So I just wanted to make sure that we are all ending this on time if we need to.
And if you do end up leaving, thank you for being here. We really appreciate your attention and your interest.
Thank you, Leo.
I have a random comment.
Best kind.
The best kind. I do a lot of hiking, and I have a dog who's about 65 pounds. And I've often wondered, who would I call if he got stuck or hurt or something, and I couldn't hike out 5 miles with him because he's just heavy. So now I know who to call. I'm thrilled.
Thanks.
So thank you for existing.
Yeah, thank you. You might also be interested. Some of the first aid classes can show you how to do like bandaging of paws and stuff, and that's a lot of what would help get your dog out if you were in a situation.
Well, I've done, I taught CPR and first aid for a while, and I also am a military veteran and did disaster preparedness and chemical warfare, blah, blah, blah. So I'm good with a lot of the stuff. It's the 65-pound dog, 5 mile. I could rig some kind of thing to haul him, I'm sure, with an emergency blanket and branches.
Yeah.
But I'd rather call you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, if you're not able to like find our number or whatever, you can also call 911. And especially if you're in one of the 3 counties that we usually respond in, they will know to find us.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, quick question, just how to connect with you later if we have follow-up questions.
Yeah, good question. So if you're looking for somebody specifically, I can give you those email addresses just in general. You can contact us through Facebook, info@wasart.org. You can contact me at public-info@wasart.org. Or thank you, Leo. I put that address in the chat. Or any of the email addresses you find on our website can get you, like if you're like, I'm looking for Michaela or I'm looking for someone for the podcast, it will usually get routed to me. So we all know each other pretty well and who should be getting what information.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
A couple of other things to note. Come out to the training. Certainly water rescue or the rope rescue side of it. We're going to ask you to attend. We're going to get to know you a little bit, and we're going to figure out what's a good fit for you. And as I said earlier, you may not want to jump in a river, you may not want to go off a cliff, but you may learn those skills with us as you go along. And as you develop your skills and confidence, then you may want to go off that cliff. So it's really a case of going as far as you want to go, and if you want to go further, we can help you do that. The other thing I'd like to mention is we do go to outside organizations every couple of years to train with. We just did a training this last year with the Swift Water Safety Institute. We brought in one of their instructors, and he certified us as 6 of us as water safety technicians, which was a great achievement for our group. And then on the rope side of it, every couple of years we go to RF4, Rigging for Rescue. One of their instructors come up and we'll go through new techniques that he's learning from the industry, and etc. So it just makes us very current with the means and methods that are going on within the industries. On occasion, we actually cross-train with fire departments where they have to meet a certain training standard certainly for a FEMA deployment, and they may not have anybody who can teach them on the animal rescue side of it. We've taught a couple of teams out of Snohomish County Fire Departments on basic rescue of animals, so they were knowledgeable, so they can deploy nationally. So we do a broad spectrum of training, and as I say, it's just a case of what works for you, what are you comfortable with, how far do you want to push yourself? Okay, I'm good at this level. Perfect.
I just wanted to make a comment on your invitation. There was a hyperlink for a rescue story with a dog named Wiley. And that's my coworker's daughter's dog.
Small world.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I found out about this open house. I saw that and I'm like, oh, it's Wiley. I'm like, oh, they have an open house. I'm an avid hiker, and so that's one of my possible interests is doing, rescues on the mountains. I don't know about jumping over a cliff yet, but are there limitations as far as elevation? I mean, are there situations where you just can't do anything?
The only limitation would be you knowing yourself and your personal capabilities. When we go to deploy out, we typically have a fairly good idea of the elevation gain, the distance, the weather, and the terrain. And there's a discussion that we will have with our team at the trailhead or wherever it happens to be before we deploy. And as a team leader, I really push hard on my team to be honest with me, to say, yeah, I'm physically fit to do, well, number one, are you physically fit to do this? Yes or no? Number two, do you have the time to do it? Yes or no? Do you have any other commitments that you need to meet that's going to need you to come back early? Because if we need to pull you out of the field early, it's our policy that at least 2 people return to base. We're not going to let somebody just go back down the trail by themselves. So that's a safety issue. So it's really just a case of being an avid hiker is awesome, because we need people to go up the trail. It's probably one of our biggest needs within the organization overall, for various different reasons, because people sometimes can't deploy their, hey, I can give 2 hours here or whatever it happens to be. So it's, I would say usually, I would guess that probably most of our deployments on a trail are usually done in a 4 to 6 hour time frame from the time that we hit the trailhead. But sometimes they can take longer. But that's a discussion we'll have with people on a day-to-day basis. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. Are there any particular trails that you're called out to frequently? I'm thinking Mailbox Peak.
Oh, Mailbox is a favorite, yes. If you can do Mailbox on a regular basis, you will be put into the elite category, because that's a miserable trail. It's a challenging trail. It varies. Twin Falls, we often get dogs over the cliff there because they slide. Typically, for the most part, it is usually along the I-90 corridor, sometimes along the Green River. It depends. We actually get them in neighborhoods where there's a steep, and we probably a couple times a year we'll get a call where family's got a Labrador and who's now becoming elderly, who's just gone down an embankment at the back of the property and can no longer get up. And that happens probably once, twice a year. So it really varies all over the place.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
There's a saying in the search and rescue community, which is search and rescue is an easy way to find all the trails, but never really get to the top of any of them. There was a question in the chat about COVID protocols for upcoming trainings, and it's kind of the same that's true for deployments, which is we follow King County's guidelines, which are masks and social distancing.
I think along those lines, as a general note, we're going to follow CDC and King County. King County Office of Emergency Management is as such as our sponsoring agency. So whatever guidelines they have is what we're going to follow. But as a side shoot off of that, whether it's COVID or anything else, you're never going to be asked to do something that you're uncomfortable with. If you're being asked to do something that you are uncomfortable with, I absolutely have the expectation you're going to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm not cool with this for whatever reason. I'm scared of heights, don't like water, I'm cold, whatever it happens to be. But that's part of the team taking care of all its team members.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Rory. And I think we work really hard to make sure everybody feels comfortable doing that as well. So we're never gonna give you a hard time because you don't feel comfortable doing something. Like, we definitely want you to know this is volunteer stuff. We want you to be comfortable and feel safe at all times. So we'll make sure that it is works for you to be appropriate. So do you need proof of vaccination to participate in training? You do not need proof of vaccination, but I believe King County may be shortly requiring vaccinations for some groups, possibly search and rescue. So that may be a thing in the future. Currently, it is not the case, but that can change any day because everything changes.
With regards to COVID, I would think that that's probably going to come into play for us probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right.
This is Elizabeth. I have another question.
Mhm.
Could you or someone give an example of any cat rescues that have happened?
Sure.
Oh, I can.
Go ahead, Rory.
Cat stuck in an I-beam on I-5 down near Mercer Street. I've personally gone down to say hello to that cat twice. It varies. We've had cats in chimneys. That's another one. Cat gets up on the roof and climbs down the chimney, gets stuck. Cats in, oh, the favorite one, cats in the HVAC unit, because they have managed to, somebody's taken the grill off the floor and the cat has decided, oh, I'm going to go investigate that because cats are curious, and off they go. So we get all kinds of calls.
Yeah, my second deployment, this is Jennifer. Hi. My second deployment was a cat in a drain pipe who had just moved in with his people. They decided that Kitty was ready to go outside and check out their yard. Kitty decided that was not the case, and decided that the drain was much safer. There was exit and entrance so Kitty could get out and get some food, but really was not interested in coming out. So that took us most of an afternoon to coax Kitty out, but Kitty was safe and clean and healthy and just was not interested in cooperating. So that was my second deployment.
Compared to the other animals we do, cats don't want to be rescued.
Nope.
They just don't.
And a lot of times they're there by choice.
Right. It is important to note that we also will refer people to Canopy Cat Rescue, for example, in cases where they are a better fit for the kind of situation that the cat might find itself in.
I love those guys.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're also a nonprofit now too, which I think is great because they do like a ton of, I think they like have done 500 rescues already so far this year. I think we've answered everybody's questions. If not, you can certainly contact one of us with the email addresses that are in the chat, or via a message to Facebook or any of the addresses that you find on the website. Thank you, everybody. And we'll hopefully see you on the trail.